Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
It's Friday, October 31st, 2025. I'm Greg Carr, sitting in for Roland. Happy Halloween. I started to wear a suit tonight, but since I don't own one, I guess that would have been my Halloween costume. That'll be a fantasy. Tonight at midnight, of course, Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. So we're getting ready to celebrate that as well. Here's what's coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. 2 federal judges say that the Trump administration must tap into emergency funds to partially cover food stamp benefits at last. We'll talk to 2 food pantry directors about how they are preparing to fill the nutritional gap for those who are in need. Trump is pressuring the Senate to scrap the filibuster to end the government shutdown. But Majority Leader John Thune says not happening on his watch. We'll see. And in Haiti, crime and poverty are rising as the country races to restore order and schedule its first election in nearly a decade. We'll speak with the editor-in-chief of the Haitian Times about the unfolding situation. Plus, AfroTech wrapped up on Thursday. We'll show you Roland's 101s with Tiffany Aliche, Deron Guidrey, and Ryan Wilson, who will share strategies to build Black wealth and drive innovation. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
This is day 31 of the Trump MAGA shutdown, and we are hours away from the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program funding freeze, impacting over 40 million families. A federal judge in Massachusetts, Indira Talwani, ruled that the Trump administration's attempt to suspend SNAP funding is, quote, unlawful, but she declined to order the program to be funded immediately. The Trump administration has until Monday, according to this judge, to respond to the potential cuts to SNAP funding. In Rhode Island, with Judge John J. McConnell, he granted a request for a temporary restraining order from a group of municipalities and nonprofits that sued to block the imminent funding freeze. In the meantime, several governors have declared food emergencies, and food pantries across the country are scrambling to find resources to meet the increased demand for food. As most people seek assistance, and with the imminent cuts to SNAP, the community is turning to those organizations for help. Joining us from Dallas, Texas is Tammy Johnson, the CEO and founder of Empowering the Masses. And from nearby Lanham, Maryland is Mel Johnson, the executive director of The Storehouse, to discuss how they are preparing to support those in need. Let's turn to you, Sister Tammy, here in nearby, in Dallas. Talk to us a little bit about what you are facing right now, what you're seeing, sis, and welcome to Roland Martin Unfiltered here on the Black Star Network.
Yes, thank you guys for having me.
Of course.
We are seeing an increased number of individuals needing our assistance. We were already serving nearly 500 families a week, but now our phones are ringing off the hook. Our lines on Saturday mornings for our Saturday drive-through distributions are back to what they were looking like during the pandemic. And so we're just bracing ourselves for what's going to happen starting tomorrow. We have a distribution happening tomorrow, and we just know that our lines are going to be, again, back to what they were during the pandemic.
My goodness. Mel, are you seeing something similar here in Maryland?
Yes, we're definitely seeing an increase of families just needing some support. We're right at about 6,000 families served each month, and that continues to grow. We, too, have more distribution scheduled for tomorrow. And again, we're preparing for what next week is going to look like and continuing to do the work to ensure that families just feel love in this season.
Of course. As you say, both of you, there's obviously increased demand. People are nervous. Is some of the traffic that you're seeing, the increased traffic, because people are anticipating the shutdown, or is it, I guess that must be why, but what would a normal kind of rhythm look like? And by normal, I mean you kind of, as you provide food assistance. Let's go with you first, Mel.
Yeah, so for our families, a lot of them are everyday Americans just trying to figure it out. Alice population families, some of those don't even qualify for things like SNAP. And for those that do, obviously it's going to hit them extra hard. So we're just being a bridge to make sure that we're here to support them, especially in love, and encouraging them in this season and just providing what we have that's available. But yeah, we're definitely seeing an uptick.
Okay. Tammy, I'm assuming that both you and Mel don't have any prohibitions. Anyone who is hungry can come and receive help. Is it the same for you? You're seeing a surge that is obviously outsized, but what would a normal kind of rhythm look like for you all?
A normal rhythm would be our neighbors, about 100 people coming in during the week to shop into what we call a community market. It's set up like a grocery store. We've done our Saturday distribution every Saturday since the pandemic, but that number has increased, and we're seeing a lot of different individuals who are those federal workers who have been off without pay. And we know that's going to be exacerbated starting tomorrow if those benefits are not restored, especially since a lot of them are not going to receive that back pay that from the time that they've been off for the 5 weeks. So those numbers are just increasing, and these are not individuals who typically have to depend on a food pantry. And it's similar to what we were seeing during the pandemic. Like, I just never would have thought that I would have to get into a line and ask for somebody to help me feed my family. And we're sitting, there again with the same stories and the same sadness from the neighbors that we're serving. And we're just there to make sure that they know that there's hope, there's light at the end of the tunnel. We're here to serve you and help you as much as we can. So we're doing our best to serve our neighbors with a smile in the midst of all of this.
Absolutely. Mel, the Attorney General in Maryland, of course, was one of the couple of dozen that went to court. Unlike the Attorney General, that nasty piece of work down there in Texas where you are, Tammy. I'm wondering if either of you have any thoughts about whether or not the decisions that came down today from the 2 federal judges in Massachusetts and Rhode Island might keep the wolf from the door. Not that it's going to change anything that's going to happen next week in terms of people showing up for help from both of you. Mel, are you all monitoring the situation? I mean, I'm sure you are, but I mean, how do you think this might intervene as you prepare for even more folk to show up at your door?
Yeah, so in Maryland, about 79% of Marylanders are actually on, SNAP benefits. So this affects a large majority of those that we serve. But you know what I've noticed? This is not about what's left or right. This is about what's right and wrong. And people need basic resources like food and healthcare. And all of this debate is unacceptable. We need to be able to have quality access to fresh foods and goods and ensure that families have dignity in the process. That's it. And that's what we're all working toward.
Of course. I'm going to bring the panel in a moment. I want to ask you one more quick question. Tammy, we see the export of some of those Border Patrol cats all over the country. We see this guy in Chicago getting drugged before a judge for throwing gas canisters at folk and people like that. But down there in Texas, I'm sure the same is true in Maryland, but certainly in Texas, are you concerned at all about some of these folk that are smashing windows and putting their hands on people, showing up at your food pantry, trying to perhaps catch folk or intimidate people as they're coming simply trying to eat? And are there people who might be maybe a little intimidated or scared or nervous about showing up to get assistance because they're worried about this kind of show of force from these thugs?
I don't foresee any violence happening. I think that our community is resilient and they're coming together to make sure that those who are in need are getting the resources that they need. We do have some of our neighbors who are reluctant to come and receive food or get food that are qualified, that more than need it. Mm-hmm. And so those numbers for certain individuals have dropped because they're afraid. And so we're doing our best to make sure that they know that we're a safe space and that we're here to make sure that they can feed their children tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, like Mel said, it's the question of right and wrong. Y'all are doing God's work. Let me bring the panel in so we can extend the conversation. We have, as always, our regular brother, Brother Michael M. Hotep from Detroit, the host of the African History Network and Network Show. Dr. Zachary Kirk, educator and content creator, and Mateo, the justice guy, legal and political analyst. Mateo, let's start with you. Any questions for Tammy and Mel?
Yeah, so I heard you talk about the issue. I think there's a compounding issue here. Number one, I don't think the 2 rulings today are going to make a difference in the short or even medium term. I think that the ruling is going to be appealed, and I think that the administration is going to drag its feet to try to delay this as much as possible, just to get an emergency injunction. And then there's this compounding issue of federal forces being out there and harassing people just because, thanks to the Supreme Court, just because they are the wrong color or have the wrong accent. So you might not be concerned, but do you have a plan in place to maybe not have people have to come out to you, but be able to still feed themselves and their family?
We do partner with DoorDash right now, and we are able to deliver some of our items to our neighbors within a 10-mile radius of us. However, funding for that is limited. And so we're limited on the amount of people that we can do that DoorDash delivery to. But we're doing our best to make sure that if we are aware and they've made us aware that they're in need of food, that we can make that happen.
Is there a way that communities around you can help?
You can always donate, to us on our website to make sure that we have the funding that's needed to deliver those groceries to our neighbors via DoorDash. We're going to need human capital every Saturday as if this continues, and we serve every Saturday from 8 a.m. till 10, but neighbors start showing up at our doors at 5 and 5:30. We're there at 6 a.m. getting set up to prepare to serve at 8. And so if you would like to volunteer some of your time to make sure that we can keep those lines off the streets, and then we can serve neighbors quickly and efficiently, we would welcome you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mateo. Dr. Kirk.
I do want to emphasize, and I wanted to just support Mateo on what he just said. If the contingency runs out, the USDA must seek other funding sources to continue SNAP benefits or risk further disruptions. The Trump administration has been asked to say by November the 3rd whether or not it's even going to comply with this. So again, this isn't meaning that people are going to get the immediate help they need. And I agree with Mateo to drag this out. With us knowing that and looking at people who are watching this from all around the world who are worried, me being one of them, what are some things that we can do in our local community beyond the food bank that we could do that could make an impact or a difference in the lives of people who are hurting and struggling right now?
I think if you had, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just jumping in, I think it's more of like creating a sense of community among ourselves, right? How do we create a utopian society among each other? We're neighbors, we're friends, we're family. How do we pull together and figure this out? Whether you take on, donating a bunch of rice or someone in your community figuring out where the peanut butter is, right? If everybody just really does their part, then we could do so much better and serve so many more people. For instance, for us, I have a location in the DMV area. We also are outside of Fort Jackson in South Carolina. And so all of our lines are super long, but there are ways that the everyday person that just has just a couple of things, right, could do to support. Ms. Johnson?
I was going to kind of just piggyback on what you were saying. I was going to say something similar. Like, we're stronger together, and I think our communities are more resilient than we know. We've seen it, happen in the past. So wherever you are, whatever you have, whatever resources you have, if you know that you have neighbors that are afraid to go to that local food pantry because of what they look like or where they're from, and you know that they're going to be hungry, I ask that you kind of fill in the gap where we can't fill in the gap. But I think that if we all come together, have an understanding that this is a basic human need to make sure that you can, have sustenance and feed your families, and provide whatever resources you have at your disposal. It doesn't have to be a lot. If you have $2 extra to go and buy some beans and some rice or something, please do so and make sure that you can help your neighbors as well. But again, the food pantries are going to be stretched thin with our staff. We're already pretty much run on skeleton crews at most food pantries because funding is limited. And so if you have 1 or 2 hours to go and help at your local pantry, please do, give of your time. That's invaluable.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Brother Mike.
I was just wondering a couple of things. Number one, a lot of people who receive SNAP benefits actually work, okay? Mm-hmm. They're not lazy at home, as many times Republicans try to portray them. How are the people who are working 1, 2 jobs, what have you, how are they trying to cope just with everything that they're dealing with, trying to feed children, trying to pay for childcare, get back to forth to work, things of this nature, and dealing with this food crisis? What are some various ways that you've heard people are trying to just cope with all of this?
I think people are more, eager to talk to each other. I think that more people are talking to counselors and therapists and things like that to kind of help them, with the mindset shift that they have to have in the midst of this time that a lot of us have not seen before. But I think, and again, we're coming together as a community. I've seen a lot more of reaching out to your neighbor, like what we're as a country should be known for. So I've seen a lot more of that. And then not being afraid to ask for assistance if you're not afraid of what the repercussions may be because you came outside of your house to ask for it.
Okay. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Tammy, Mel, with Empowering the Masses and the Storehouse, you've kind of helped us understand how people can help. Is there a direct way that the viewers can donate? I know you mentioned the website before, but what can we do to help here? Go ahead, Tammy, you can go first, please.
Let everybody know that you know about an organization in Texas that's doing their best to make sure that we can fill in the gap in these trying times. Send them to our website, send them to our social medias, and spread the word about the work that we're doing in other, local entities as well. But please just spread the word, tell everybody about what we're doing.
Thank you very much. And the website is Empowering the Masses. I mean, what's the website?
Empoweringthemasses.org. And all of our social medias are at Empowering the Masses.
Got it. Mel, please, same thing for the Storehouse, sis.
Yes, so we are God-led and family-run, which means we need all the support that we can get because we are self-funded. So if you want to support the work, we appreciate it. You can visit us at www.thestorehouseus.org or the Storehouse US on everything social media.
Okay, well, we know that God is no respecter of race or color or kind, but it is good on a Friday to see two black women standing in the gap. We know y'all been doing that since the beginning of humanity. So Tammy Johnson, Empowering the Masses, Mel Johnson, the Storehouse, as this thing gets sorted out, they're making sure that people can eat. This is Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network, and we'll be right back.
In the military, I gave orders, and they went a lot further than they do around here. If there's one thing I've learned as a mom and foster parent of more kids than I can count, investing in their future isn't a choice. In Richmond, I'll fight for Stafford's fair share for our schools. Smaller class sizes, better teacher pay, and more vocational training.
I'm Stacey Carroll, and I'll fight to get our kids' future in order.
I'm Marissa Mitchell, a news anchor at Fox 5 DC.
Hey, what's up? It's Tammy Roman, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
There seems to be no end in sight for this government shutdown. The convict in chief is calling on Senate Republicans to invoke the so-called nuclear option, scrapping the filibuster to push through government funding with a simple majority. But Senate Majority Leader John Thune says his stance remains unchanged, and he continues to support the filibuster as a safeguard against bad legislation. Let's hear from the MAGA Muppet, House Speaker Mike Johnson's explanation about Trump's demand to end the filibuster.
What you're seeing is an expression of the president's anger at the situation. He is as angry as I am and the American people are about this madness. And he just desperately wants the government to be reopened so that all these resources can flow to the people who need it so much. Look, I'll just say this in general. As I've said many times about the filibuster, it's not my call. I don't have a say in this. It's a Senate chamber issue. We don't have that in the House, as you know. But the filibuster has traditionally been viewed as a very important safeguard. If the shoe was on the other foot, I don't think our team would like it. The Democrats, look, they've said what they would do. They would pack the Supreme Court. They would make Puerto Rico and D.C. states. They would ban firearms. They would do all sorts of things that would be very harmful for the country. And the safeguard in the Senate has always been the filibuster. But again, not my issue, not something I get to even weigh in on. My opinion on this is not relevant. It's the senators. But I think that it just is another expression of the frustration, of the pressure that is being felt, the anger by the president and by me and all of us that we're in this situation at all. Do your basic job. I'm going to say this again. We have put zero Zero Republican policy priorities on the CR. It is Biden-level policies and spending. They have no excuse at all not to support it. They have no excuse to put all this pain on the American people, except that for what we've just articulated and repeated here every day, they want to give a showing to the radical left fringes of their base, and they want to give illegal benefits or benefits back to illegal aliens and non-citizens and all the other crazy stuff that they've claimed.
Truly remarkable. That's the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. 290,000 people in his district in Louisiana are on Medicaid. That's 38% of his district, as he sat there and blamed a man who's in full retirement, Joe Biden. You're a MAGA Muppet, my little friend, and you probably need to be quiet, Mr. Speaker. The House remains in recess under Speaker Mike Johnson, and the clock is ticking toward what could become the longest shutdown in U.S. history. Federal air traffic controllers may have missed their first paycheck this week, adding to the growing list of federal workers going without pay. Military members may receive a reprieve as the administration secures funding, but millions of others continue to face financial strain. Michael M. Hotep, you have been tracking this very closely day by day. Russell Vought is somewhere rubbing his little hands together, trying to figure out how to throw more sand in the gears. Talk to us a little bit about your reaction to what comes down from Capitol Hill this evening.
Well, it's more of the same. I just did a presentation dealing with Project 2025 last night for Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated here in the Detroit area. And I talked about Russell Vought, known as the architect of Project 2025. Yes, he wants to downsize the federal government more, take back or put on hold construction projects like the $18 billion New Jersey, New York tunnel that he put on hold, claiming that they want to make sure it was not unconstitutional DEI involved in that contract. When we see Senator John Thune's reluctance, House Majority Leader Senator John Thune's reluctance in actually saying he's not going to revoke the filibuster. In reading the piece from the New York Times today dealing with the filibuster, it's not even clear if he even wanted to do it, he would have enough Republican votes to do it, because they know that if they do a carve out for the filibuster or just totally go nuclear and just totally revoke it, when Democrats take back control of the Senate, it's going to be game on. And then it'll just be a simple majority to get bills passed, just 51 votes as opposed to the 60 vote threshold. So, something that's very interesting is that I was watching MSNBC today, and they talked about how in Oklahoma, for the Salvation Army food pantry, the phone lines crashed temporarily because people were calling, trying to find out information. Well, Donald Trump won Oklahoma by 35 points in 2024. Mm-hmm. And Oklahoma is one of those states that voted for Trump that's devastated and that relies on SNAP and is dealing with food insecurity. So this is day 31 of the second longest government shutdown in history. The longest government shutdown was in December 2018 to January 2019, lasted 35 days. And Donald Trump was president then, and Republicans controlled the House and the Senate. Mm-hmm. So this was predictable. Mm. He cannot govern. This was predictable.
Yes, indeed. Along that vein, Dr. Kirk, looking at Carl Hulse updating the New York Times website, pointing out to the point that Mike is making, many Republicans, particularly more senior members, fear that any weakening of the signature Senate rule that requires most legislation to win 60 votes would backfire spectacularly if Democrats regain control. They worry it could lead to a deluge of progressive legislation that they would be unable to block, including statehood for the District of Columbia, and with it 2 new Democratic senators. Dr. Kirk, why is John Thune holding the line? You think they're nervous about that?
That gives me hope, right? And I think for everybody watching, let me tell you, not hoping John.
No. Okay, yeah, no, of course.
hope for America and democracy. See, a lot of us are very concerned about the fact that we don't believe that there will be free and fair elections in 2026 and 2028. But the fact that Republicans in the Senate are afraid that Democrats can regain control tells me that things aren't as rigged as they may want us to believe it to be. And they are afraid of the American people and the anger and the response of the American people as we approach these midterms. So it needs to give us hope to get off our asses and get out there and push people to vote on November the 4th, and then be prepared to overwhelm the ballot boxes in 2026 because there's hope here. John Thune is no idiot. He's no fool. And I think that he realizes that the tables can turn and very likely will, because we're seeing Republicans, because nobody gives a fuck about Trump. This man is on his way out the door. No matter what he says, no matter what he pretends, no matter how he lies, his days are numbered, period. Either here on earth or with the Lord. The days are numbered. But John Thune knows that he has more time left for what could be a career that is going to come to an end in 2028. And he is concerned about that. And that makes me feel good as someone who cares about American democracy, that we still have a very strong fighting chance. And I hope that our listeners out there, specifically in these states that matter so much in this 2025 election, New Jersey, we're looking at what's happening in Pennsylvania with the judges who are on the board on the ballot for the next 10-year term. We're looking at Virginia. We're looking at Prop 50 in California. We're looking at in Georgia, Public Service Commissioner, and these high-as light bills that we're dealing with. People get out and vote, even if it's not something that you think is important that's on the ballot. It is. And this is why we have to do it, because they're afraid, and we need to keep them afraid by applying pressure, especially pressure with our vote.
No question, brother. No question. And Mateo, and along the vein, Dr. Kirk has opened this up for us. They do seem to be very nervous. The rhetoric is getting more and more, it's heated, more and more absurd, certainly in the case of Speaker Johnson. And maybe it isn't as bleak as it appears. I mean, any thoughts on what to make of what they said today?
Is Dr. Kirk talked about the fact that Trump is meeting the Lord at some point in his life, and I think is very optimistic if he thinks that at the end of his journey here, that's going to happen. But that's just my opinion. I would say that very telling is what Speaker Johnson said. He's a historically has been a parrot for Trump the man, not even Trump the administration. And in that, but he's also a very smart man. He's good with words. And in that moment, what he said was, my opinion doesn't matter. And that's because his opinion is completely aligned with Thune's. Thune's been in Congress for just shy of 30 years, I believe. He knows how these things are working, and he knows that nuclear option or organic traditional vote, changing the rules, the congressional rules or Senate rules, is a suicide. It's a suicide because things change in Congress and Senate, and Trump has no experience, and he's a very uterine, immediate gut reaction man, and he wants results right now, no matter what. Congress is not going to go along, and I will echo what your other guests were saying, that this is good news for a different reason, is because what both Thune is saying and Johnson is alluding to, I think it betrays the fact that there is a fracture happening in Congress, and that fracture hopefully at some point is going to be large enough that it will swallow the administration and we can get back to the business of democracy.
Wow. Okay. Well, yeah, it's definitely out of his hands, as you say, Mateo. There is one thing, though, that's in his hands, certainly, and that would be to swear in Representative Grijalva. Release the Epstein files, my little friend, but we know you're not going to do that. We'll be back in a moment here on the Black Star Network, Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Nicole Cole knows the cornerstone of a successful life starts here. Virginia Public Schools gave Nicole an excellent education. They helped her become a small business owner, family financial planner, mother, and community leader. Now, after 4 years on the Spotsylvania School Board, Nicole is running for delegate to meet the needs of all students. As our delegate, Nicole will fully fund our schools, raise teacher salaries, and help graduating students stay in our communities. Nicole Cole for delegate. For us, for our future.
As a pastor, I hear a lot about trips to the doctor. Bills piling up, jobs being lost. So as your delegate, I went to work writing laws that protect families, helping parents care for their disabled children, capping insulin costs, lowering prescription prices, and investing in our police and schools. I'm Josh Cole, and as your delegate, I'm working to keep us strong and safe.
Hey, this is Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. That boy, he always unfiltered, though. I ain't never known him to be filtered. Is there another way to experience Roland Martin than to be unfiltered? Of course he's unfiltered. Would you expect anything less? Watch what happens next.
I always do love that Kim bit. I tell you what, with the government shutdown entering its second month and folks going without their paychecks, it's time to discuss finances and budgeting. While in Houston at the AfroTech conference, Roland caught up with the budgetista. I always mess her name up. The budgetnista, Tiffany Aliche, who shared some tips on being financially savvy. Here's that conversation.
All right, Tiffany, let's talk money.
Yes.
So, a lot of people have no clue about money.
Yes.
We spend it, we earn it, we don't know how to keep it. And most folk, when you talk about even tracking expenses, it amazes me how many people, when you start asking them questions about what they spend, really don't know how much money they spend. How has technology helped make it easier for a person to be able to track spending, but also to begin the process of saving and investing?
Well, first of all, the technology has been here for a long time because you might not know, but your bank account knows, your credit card statements know. You can literally pull those statements out, and even now you can upload them to AI to ask, how am I doing? Here are my goals. How close am I? How
Now,
far
when you
am I?
say upload to AI, for the person
So like
who
a
has no clue,
ChatGPT.
what would they upload it to?
You could upload it literally to a ChatGPT, for example. So, Roland, the other day, I closed on a property, and I felt like my closing statements were too high. I said, like,
When you say closing statements too high, what do you mean?
meaning, like, you know how when you close on a property, they're like, at the end, you might have to pay like an HOA fee. You
Got
might
it.
have to pay
I hate HOAs.
like taxes.
I hate HOAs.
Right, but I just felt like the statement seems too high, you know, because really your closing cost should be about 3% or less of what the cost of the
So
property.
what, you thought there was like some hidden stuff in there?
It was.
Really?
I uploaded my closing statement to ChatGPT and said, is this too high? If it is, what's happening here? Some things I was being charged 3 or 4 times because it was like 15 pages.
Wow.
Yes. I was able to find it, and then Chat said, would you like us to write a letter to HUD to say, why am I being triple charged or quadruple charged for these things? Please remove them, and did, and I saved like $500-600.
Wow.
Yes, so I say that to say that this technology is available where you can upload components of your life and ask the questions. Of course, you have to use your human sense, though.
Well, I think for a lot of people, just even the idea of just asking the question.
Yes.
Because we're just so trained as well, and that's what it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and pay it.
Yeah, and I just don't believe in that. Even now, like I know a lot of people are navigating poor credit. You can literally train whatever AI you use, ChatGPT, for example, to almost be like your credit counselor. To say, here's my outstanding debt, here's my current credit score, here's where I'd like to be, what do I need to do? And slowly work that plan.
Several years ago, I did a show on TV One. We did a whole show on credit. And I've always said it, that I believe the whole credit thing is a scheme. I think it's BS. You have no idea with the algorithm how it even gets to that. It used to be the top credit score was 700. Where in the hell 850 come from? Like all of a sudden, like for the longest, the top credit score was 700. Now, all of a sudden, it's 850.
Well, honestly, because my parents are born and raised in Nigeria. There's no credit. You buy it or you don't buy. You know, but here in the United States, unfortunately, credit is like you need to know me before you need me. And so you have to learn to play the game. And the truth is, if you're not using these new tools, you're being left behind. If you're not using Chat or Gemini or whatever AI tools, because they're using them against you.
Right.
They're literally using those tools to say, how likely is it that Roland is going to pay these bills on time? How likely is it that he's going to be someone who can afford this house in 10 years? And so you want to use those tools to your advantage as well.
And I want to stay on credit because what I've sort of laid out is, at the end of the day, when you talk about credit, you're using credit for two things, car or house.
For the most part, yep.
And so I think there's a whole lot of conversation around credit that I think is unnecessary. So many people get caught up on it, like, what's your credit score? Well, first of all, if I already have a car, it's not like I'm going to buy another car. But really, it's now granted, we know when you rent a car, we know for a lot of people, they're using it for light bills, all sorts of stuff along those lines. But I do believe there's a point you reach where credit's not that big of a deal if you already have a house and you already have a car. I'm not fixating on the credit score.
Well, I'll say, for example, my father's 85, so credit, whatever. But
yeah, I'm 57 in 2 weeks, and I'm not. See, I'm gonna do. I buy it. Okay, we ain't laying nothing away. I'm not sitting here. Credit card get paid off every month. I'm not sitting here going, well, no, pay this much and leave a little bit on for your credit score. Even when I get those alerts and it's like your credit score went up, went down, I'm like, yeah, okay.
Well, I will say this. There are certain jobs that will look at your credit, Roland. Like, for example, one of my mentees was an attorney. And she was really afraid because they made it clear if your credit score is in the toilet, you probably can't work here. If you're working in banking, same.
Right.
You know, so I will say there
Right, it depends upon the stage. Where
Yes.
listen, the first coming out of college, they hate when I talk about this, I don't care. The Birmingham News, all the editors wanted to hire me, but Alabama had a state law in 1991 where they could deny a job because of a credit score. And I was a college graduate, and I was interviewing before I even graduated, and the HR folk denied me the job, and the editors were sickened. And I remind them every single time.
I know
trust me, whenever I give a speech, especially in Alabama, I will remind them that when people talk about my career and places I've worked, there's a reason they're not on it because of that law.
Also, too, you have to think, like, I'm a business owner, and so before you get business credit, they really use your personal credit. And so, you know, so credit is one of those things that sometimes you don't know you're going to need it, so it's best to keep it at least in decent shape. So that way, when you need to tap into it, it's available to you.
A lot of, right now, so many people are fixated on, everybody's talking about securing the bag, securing the bag, securing the bag. And there's this notion for a lot of people that I need to make X amount of dollars before I can save or invest anything. Give us some examples of how technology has just brought that thing down so small where people could literally be doing micro saving, micro investing, as opposed to thinking, oh, I need to start with $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000.
You can start as little. So I was just reading this article. It came out a while ago. His name is Mr. Earl. He made $12 an hour. He was a parking lot attendant. Do you remember the story?
Yep.
He had gotten a portfolio up to $500,000. Never made over $12 an hour. And one of the things that he invested in for himself was education. The parking lot that he was attending, there were all these investors that would park their car there, and he would pick their brains for free. And so as a result, you know, $500,000, and I can't remember how many years that he was able to accumulate. So I say that to say that if Mr. Earl could invest at $12 an hour working as a parking lot attendant back then certainly you can start with as little as $25 a paycheck.
But you also have to have what I call life discipline.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also a huge part. I despise brands. What I mean by that is I'm not driven by that. I don't give a damn. If you got a handbag, I'll be like, okay. I'm not spotting what that is when it comes to shoes and everything else. And I just think part of the issue for a lot of people is that they're so brand conscious. They want to impress others. And when they look at what they're trying to do, I sort of sit there and go, you can't afford this life. And so you can't live your life this way, but then somehow thinking you're going to be able to have, like Mr. Earl, $500,000 in 15, 20, 25 years. And so you have to, and I get living in the moment, I get enjoying life, but you also have to be realistic about what you're spending on And so, like, I look at some people, I'm like, now you cannot afford bottle service twice a month. Stop it.
Well, the thing is, I think, Roland, that people have not created a plan. Remember back in college that you met with your counselor before, like, you started college? Because if you want to graduate in 4 years, you must follow a specific plan.
Right.
Right? And so I think the thing that people are missing is in 5 years, 10 years, you're not going to magically get there. What plan do you have in place? So whether it's sitting down with a certified financial planner, whether it's using whatever AI tools are available to you, defining what do I want life to look like in 5, 10, 15 years, who do I need to be now, and what habits, financial habits, do I need to have now to reach that goal? And that's really the only way, and that's the way I've been able to navigate to where I am.
But I also think there has to be a complete change in mindset.
Yeah.
Because if you don't change your mindset in terms of how you spend, what you spend, and what your priorities are, all of a sudden that's the case. I've never, again, you take cars. I've never been a car person.
Mm-hmm.
I literally do not give a damn about that car. Henry and I always go there because his car always clean. I am not going to the car wash once a week. I think I have my Navigator. I probably wash that sucker like 3 times in a year. It got me from A to B. I literally didn't even think about that. That was irrelevant to me. It was completely irrelevant to me. And so I look at also mindset. Some people are just fixated. I've got to have this car. Matter of fact, I'm in Houston, and I ran a newspaper here, and there was a brother. He had a Ford Explorer. We had a black newspaper, so he gets a raise. They had a clean Ford Explorer, which was him and his girlfriend. He goes out, upgrades to the Expedition. And I was like, why'd you do that? And about 6 months later, those Expedition payments were kicking us behind.
Yes.
And I said, okay, I don't understand. It's you and your girlfriend. You put a whole new audio system in your car. I said, why the hell did you get Expedition?
Yeah.
You didn't need the extra room. Well, I got a raise. I said, but now it's kicking you in your behind. And I just think that for so many people, we are fixated on, I've always wanted those things. It's kind of like, yeah, but you can't afford that now.
Yeah. Well, I think...
So mindset.
I think mindset helps also, too, if you have the right community around you. And so I think about my father was a CFO and an accountant, and I have my 4 sisters.
Oh, girl, please. You grew up. You couldn't buy
nothing.
You couldn't buy nothing.
My father was like, they had like the what is it? Everybody Hates Chris. That was that day.
You couldn't buy, hey, Dad, can we get, nope.
No, literally.
Nope.
But what he did was he infused what actually matters. I think that's the key that people are missing now, Roland, is that they're not clear on what is the desired outcome for the money. Like, you want to go to school, you want to travel, so I don't actually tell myself no, but I reserve for the big yes. So it's like, okay, if I want to say yes to going to travel to Egypt, then that just means less of something else that doesn't actually move me. So I think that's the key for the mindset shift. It's not about deprivation.
Well, when I say mindset shift, making the determination that's not. So, perfect example. When I got a Sprinter in 2020 for the business. So probably about 3 months later, I was in my driveway, and I went, wow, this is the first Mercedes I own. Then I went, and it's totally paid for. It was 100% write-off. And so for my whole life, I was never fixated on, I need a BMW.
Yeah.
I need a Mercedes. I need a Bentley. So it didn't matter to me. When I treated my Corolla the same way I treated my Mazda B2200 pickup, the same way I treated my Ford Navigator, and the same way I treated my Sprinter. For me, it was a mode of transportation.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I remind people, Ross Perot had $3 billion. He drove a minivan. And so I think a lot of us just get so fixated on things as opposed to what is the type of life I want to live when I'm 50, 60, 70, 80.
Yeah. And so Prudential did this study to figure out why are people so disconnected from their older self. And it's the same reason why you almost don't see yourself even as your younger self. So I say lean into the fact that you are detached from your older self. I gave my older self her name. Her name was Wanda. And I think about Wanda almost like the grandmother version of myself. So when I'm making choices, Roland, I'll say, well, dang, if I buy this, is Wanda going to eat cat food? Like, what are we doing? I can imagine Wanda sitting in her rocking
Right.
chair like, oh, another unnecessary thing that you're getting, Tiffany.
Right.
Because it is your younger self's job to look after your older self. And so one of the ways to shift that mindset is to pull your older self out, name them, and allow them to help guide you. Like, if I make the decision, how does that affect the older version of myself?
Well, and also I think that it's also how you process.
Yes.
In terms of, again, because you're determining what's really important.
Yes.
I make decisions very fast,
Mhm.
and people think that I make them too fast, but I've already processed it. And so once I set on, yes, I'm going to get that. I know what it costs. I know what I can afford. I can live, but this is the most important thing for me. I can live with that decision, and there be zero regrets. That to me is the biggest thing. Like I never understand folk who get things and then it's like,
I just got it.
what the hell? And now they're exasperated. That to me is also a part of the deal. When you make that commitment, hey, you made it, you bought it, live with it, and keep it moving.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this too.
Which goes to mindset.
Yeah. And so if you're going to work on anything when it comes to your money, mindset for me is always first and foremost, because your money will never do better than what you think about it. You know, there are people, we've known them who have become millionaires, at least on paper, but really don't have any money because their mindset has brought them back to poverty because that's the way they think about themselves. And so your money will never do better than you.
One of the issues that, listen, I've had to deal with this my entire adult life as well. And this is the reality for a lot of African Americans. And that is, you talk about, look at what we spend. What happens when we are, in essence, supporting a lot of folks around us?
Yeah.
And that's real.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if you're black, all of a sudden, let's say you hit, let's say $50,000. Folk think, oh, you getting paid.
Yeah.
And Van Jones and I were having this conversation. So his former wife was white. She was white. And he said, man, the conversations that she has when her dad calls are totally different than when my mom calls.
Well, to be fair, they've had a head start, if you will.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. But the point that he was making, is that conversations that she was having were about stocks, trust, things along those lines. He said the phone call that he was getting was, so-and-so needs this to buy some books, or so-and-so got in trouble and it's 500 here. And so what then happens is, when we start actually adding up 200 here, 500 here, here, you look back over 10 years and you're helping folks raise their kids, all sort of stuff along those lines. That is a real tax on families. And what I say in our community, the problem is, as you get older, now you got parents, now you got others. And so when you look back, all the money you may have helped others with over a 10, 20, 30-year period, it adds up. So we have to I believe we have to begin to break that generational curse to say, listen, how can I help you education-wise do these things earlier in life, so when you have kids, your kids are not trying to borrow from their cousins.
So well, true wealth really is setting yourself up so you're not a burden to your children. When I think about my parents...
So you're not what?
I'm not a financial burden to my
Right.
children. So you're right, because when I think about my parents, certainly they didn't have the money to help me with a down payment for a house, but they also don't ask me for money. Do I send them some? Yes.
Right.
But the conversations that we have are about trust and will and taxes and things like that. And so I have set myself in such a way that, like, my stepdaughter, when she's grown, is not going to have to look after me.
Right.
You know? And so, but the thing is, it has to start with us, and it starts with education. And so many times we're not willing to do the work now to be who we want to be in the future. That's the key. It's not going to happen magically and accidentally. It's going to require listening to shows like this, picking up a book to read, maybe hiring a financial planner to create actual plans, so that way you and the generations beyond you will be okay. I can remember being in high school and my father bringing the financial planner to our dining room table, just to set the tone of, like, there's help out there. And now I've done that for my stepdaughter.
So two of my nieces run around here.
I saw
so I have I've raised 6 nieces at one time.
Okay.
And so I remember we were leaving church one Sunday, and normally I'm gone on weekends. I got speeches, I'm covering stuff. So that weekend I was there. My wife was traveling. So we're in the car. So they're like, Uncle Robert, where are we going to eat? I was like, the house. well, when we were on Jackie, we all go out to eat. I was like, okay. I said, how many people in the car? They looking around, 6 of you plus me. That's 7. I said, okay, the average meal, appetizer, and drink, I said, for y'all, let's say it's $30. All right, so now we got 7 people. I said, like, we're literally driving. I'm forcing. I said, that's $210. I said, now, 18% tip. How much is that? They on the back trying to figure out, okay, all right, they're trying to add it all up. I said, all right, I want you to now multiply that number times 4 and multiply that number times 12.
Wow.
So then now they on the back like, okay, all right, I said, now, all right, each one of you has an Apple laptop that I paid in cash. I said, the laptop is $2,000 each. It's 6 of you. That's $12,000. You have 4 tutors for the 6 of you. This is how much they cost per month. So I started running through all these numbers. I said, now, dinner on Sunday, I said, is it the equivalent for the whole year, I said, of maybe 2 laptops. Y'all didn't learn how to cook.
Yeah.
But I wanted to force them,
Yes.
I wanted them to know that all this stuff that they see, somebody else is paying for.
Yeah.
So it's just here for you.
Yeah.
And so I was literally forcing them to understand everything that is a cost involved.
Yes.
And I was driving, and wait a minute, the reason I got the Navigator is because when the 6 of them came, I needed a vehicle that can carry 8 people. So I had to get a whole new car. And so that to me also, I think, so when you say your dad had the financial plan on the table, I think one of the greatest mistakes is that we literally don't communicate to kids what stuff costs and who pays for it.
And I do that now. Even my niece Amelia is 7, and so whenever I take her and her brother Roman out, from the pizza that we get, she's really curious. I'm like, oh no, that was $10. And at the end, I make her add it up, and she's like, last time she told me kids are so expensive.
You like, yeah. Well, I had another niece. She wanted to go with a family to some amusement park, but they needed books. I was like, okay. And I said, now, how much you need for the amusement park? For this weekend trip? I went, all right, so how much are your books in the fall? It was a private school, Christian Academy school. I said, now, how you going to pay for them books? I said, so you got to pick. Paying for their books or that amusement park trip. I said, because you can't have both. And I forced her to have to make a decision.
And that's the mindset shift.
She picked the books.
And that's the mindset shift. My 19-year-old, she just turned 19, and I told her, for your birthday, I'm going to give you $300. She's like, okay. I said, I'm going to give you $150 now. In 6 months, if you have 20% of it still saved, I'll give you the other $150. She was like, what do I, but I am trying to, because you can't just talk about it. To your point, Roland, you have to give them the opportunity to exercise that financial muscle in their brains. Yeah.
So another trick that I use, so we go shopping. And I make them process shopping and cost of goods. Oh, what do y'all want? How much is that? That's 4 for what?
Yes.
Like, we're literally going through the store. People look at me like, I was like, don't worry, but it's a math lesson. but I needed them to understand that when you want it, you want these snacks and all kind of other treats, understand what all this stuff costs compared to these staples over here. And again, because when I went shopping with my mom or my dad, I would be processing, but I would also be calculating.
Yes.
So when I shop, I can sit and go through, boom, 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 3 this, how much per ounce, whatever. Okay, I'm going to grab that. Matter of fact, when we went to college, my brother called home. He was like, Mom, Roland trip, he spent all his money. I was like, bro, I'm not spending all this money. You shop slow. He didn't understand how my brain was working, but I needed to teach them how to calculate why you think that's actually a better deal. How many ounces in that compared to this over here?
We need to give our kids an opportunity to practice and make financial mistakes, honestly. Mess up on your credit while you're still really young. Overspend so you realize, well, now you don't have enough money for books. I remember when I was in college, I had a friend who got rims on his car. His father was so mad. He said, who's paying for the next semester? Not me. He had to sit out a whole semester of school because he paid, $2,500 for rims on his car.
Oh, hell no.
But that was such a good lesson for him. He came back hat in hand, like I'll never do that again.
Oh, yeah, I bet he not. I bet he won't.
Because we have to give our children the opportunity to make those lessons, but then to talk about it. So parents can make a lot of money, but if you pass on wealth but don't pass on information, your child will lose that money within one generation.
And the data actually shows that.
Yes, it does.
All right, if folks want more information, how do they reach you?
I am the Budgetnista on all the platforms, thebudgetnista.com, the Budgetnista on LinkedIn, social media, Instagram, wherever. I'm here.
All right, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland.
Thank you for another masterclass, Roland and Tiffany. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network, and we'll be right back.
In the military, I gave orders, and they went a lot further than they do around here. If there's one thing I've learned as a mom and foster parent of more kids than I can count,
Investing in their future isn't a choice.
in Richmond, I'll fight for Stafford's fair share for our schools. Smaller class sizes, better teacher pay, and more vocational training.
I'm Stacey Carroll, and our fight to get our kids' future in order.
Nicole Cole knows the cornerstone of a successful life starts here. Virginia Public Schools gave Nicole an excellent education. They helped her become a small business owner, family financial planner, mother, and community leader. Now, after 4 years on the Spotsylvania School Board, Nicole is running for delegate to meet the needs of all students. As our delegate, Nicole will fully fund our schools, raise teacher salaries, and help graduating students stay in our communities. Nicole Cole for delegate. For us, for our future.
Josh Cole became a pastor and delegate to serve his community. That's why Josh is fighting to lower costs for families hurting from inflation and make sure we can all afford quality health care. But Sean Steinway has embraced his MAGA backers who support Trump's mass firing of federal workers and the MAGA plan to ban abortion with no exceptions. We deserve better than Sean Steinway.
I'm Josh Cole, candidate for delegate, and I sponsored this ad.
Hey, I'm Tasha Cobbs, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. But I need a little filter. I need something. Blow me out. Make me look 35.
If this isn't the pot calling the kettle black, probably need a better metaphor for that. The sheet calling the milk white, I'm not sure. The twice impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief, Donald the Con Trump, says President Joe Biden should be behind bars. On social media, he called one of his political rivals a criminal who, quote, should be in jail, end quote. Though he didn't mention Biden by name, it's clear who he meant. Maybe, I'm not sure. The man's mind is gone. Trump linked to a story criticizing the Biden-era January 6th investigation, calling it, quote, politically motivated and, quote, thin on evidence. He accused Biden and former special counsel Jack Smith of wrongdoing, a familiar refrain as Trump's legal battles tied to the 2020 election and the Capitol riot continued. The White House declined to confirm if Trump was explicitly referring to Biden. Well, here we go again. Dr. K, what should we make of this, Dr. Kirk? I mean, is this just another one of those things he's trying to throw into the street to divert attention from things he's worried about, or how do you read this?
The Epstein files. Yeah, absolutely. This man is under immense pressure and stress. He's worried as hell because he saw that his good buddy, King Charles, in England has stripped his brother Andrew of all of these titles and all that, and he's worried. He's concerned about that. He's concerned about the public outcry all around this country and all around this world around what was done on that island with this man's best friend. That's absolutely something this man's concerned about. So it's meant to be a distraction, but it's also meant to be a way of rewriting history. President Trump is sitting here constantly putting things out here and trying to switch the narrative and giving his sycophants all across this country, his MAGA cult, the language that they need because they can't think for themselves. They don't have that capacity. They don't have that ability so that they know what to say and how to defend him as these allegations continue to mount. So yeah, it's a distraction, but it's also an attempt to rewrite history. And it's going to fail because what you cannot rewrite are the facts and the impact of President Biden's legacy and what he's done for this country. And the fact that he left with our economy on the uptick and now it's constantly going down, where he left where farmers had more money, where the American people had more money, where we had solid health care. all the things that we are now losing, never had a government shutdown under the Biden administration. Those are things that this man can never erase or undo, no matter how much he and his administration lies.
Absolutely. Mike, another day, another distraction. As Dr. Kirk said, these Epstein files, at some point, they're going to come out either under this administration or the next. I saw a story today that Letitia James is attempting to disqualify one of the prosecutors. They're trying to move the case that she won against Trump to federal court, even as they're appealing the conviction that he suffered last year. What do you make of this? Is this another case of him ranting on social media?
This is more of the mental decline of demented Donald Trump. If we go back to July 27th, 2025, Donald Trump called for the prosecution of 5 black people: Barack Obama, Vice President Kamala Harris, Oprah Winfrey, Beyonce, and Reverend Al Sharpton. Okay, for various reasons. Another attempt to distract from the Epstein files. So here you have Donald Trump on his knockoff version of Twitter, and he didn't mention Joe Biden's name, but many people think that's who he was alluding to. He said he is a criminal who should be in jail, but then he also said an ugly person both inside and out. I beat him badly and love watching him squirm now. Well, he didn't win an election against Joe Biden. I don't understand what you're talking about. You beat him badly. Badly how? You lost to Joe Biden. So once again, this is Donald Trump. It went with the government shut down for 31 days, with people who voted for this jackass standing in food lines because they don't have money to buy food. If they're federal workers, they're not getting paid. I guess he's back now from his trip to Asia, where he was dancing and received a crown. He is tore down the east wing of the White House, right, to build this golden palace-like structure. And this is what he's doing. You know, so, I mean, what do you expect? We warn people. This guy's mentally unstable. Not qualified to be president. So I mean, this is more of what's to come. It doesn't surprise me.
Thank you, Mike. Mateo, just thinking about this, and Mike kind of led into this. You know, all this posting on social media, Truth Social, they all use now social media, and then the commercial news entertainment media complex picks it up as if it's official policy making, or, you know, people are saying we've seen a lot of this stuff before, but there's some things that just seem so deeply unfamiliar as to be very concerning. I mean, this is the President of the United States, but as Mike said, his diminished mental capacity notwithstanding. You know, how do you read this consistent kind of just ranting against the norms that continue to be broken? I mean, what are we seeing here, not just in this case, but with the Trump presidency in general?
I'll start by saying one thing. I find it blisteringly ironic that Trump calls the allegations against him thin on evidence. This coming from the administration that presented a half-page indictment against Comey that was signed only by the U.S. attorney, which breaks every norm. Overall, I think that there's a dual purpose here. I think that some of it is Trump's personal grievances. It's his beef. It's once again his desire to act whenever he feels like it. He's a baby. He's a large orange baby. And like all toddlers, he does whatever he wants. But I see another element here, and I think it's an element that's made of planning and cunning, not by Trump, but by other people. And that is the desire to use all of these methods that go beyond criminal indictments. They use executive orders. They use empty accusations. And that is certainly to occupy their perceived political enemies, and then to distract from everything. Obviously, the chief distraction here is the Epstein files. But one of the things that I'm seeing is that the plan is there, in my opinion, but the product, the outcome, is very disjointed. And I'm going to go back to the Comey indictment. That was truly botched. And we can look at the two U.S. attorneys that were disqualified in 2 months. In fact, 3 attorneys that were U.S. attorneys that were disqualified in the last 2 months for different reasons. We don't need to go into the details. But everything points to the fact that there's a disjointed approach to things. I think that it is the result of the people closest, Miller being the primary one, the people closest to the president telling him what to do to create chaos, to create sort of a paralyzing movement of elements. But then when it naturally needs to go outside, the DOJ is not able to perform. And again, we've seen it in the indictments, because the DOJ is not made part of it. And so they're in a hurry to kind of produce whatever it is that they need to produce. And I think that's a good thing, because as we were saying earlier, in the relationship between Congress and the department and the executive, here too I see a potential fracture happening between the closest allies to Donald Trump and the government at large, in this case the DOJ, that may not be quite as close to it, and so it's trying to just catch up. At some point, these two will collide, and hopefully it'll happen soon enough, because one of the things that I think is happening is also clearly that Trump is trying to cede, on one side, he's trying to cede the most loyal attorneys to him, and then on the other side, what he's trying to do is take out every possible venue for check and control. We've seen it with basically every safeguard that the Constitution and federal law allows us to have are being dismantled. So I think if the DOJ, if there's still some good in the DOJ and they act fast enough, I think there's an opportunity for us to come out of this, maybe not unscathed, but partially wounded only.
Yes, sir. I mean, it's encouraging listening to you now and listening to Dr. Kirk earlier. Yes, it's a little bit harder to take a jackhammer to that kind of apparatus in the arc of a few months or even a couple of years. There's a lot of pushback, and you're absolutely right. Those fractures are really beginning to show up. Listen, everyone, we need your support to continue the work that we do. You all know that. Sharing news that impacts Black America, that impacts the world. Be sure to support by joining the Bring the Funk fan club. Y'all know that. We're working to raise $1 million by the end of the year. And that's coming up fast, so let's pay attention. You can send in your donation via Cash App. Hit that Cash App using the QR code that is on the screen. Let me take a pause there. You see it? Line it up. Get that QR code going. PayPal is R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is R. Martin Unfiltered. If you use Zelle, send Roland a gift to Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Make checks and money orders payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, Post Office Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say. and they don't ultimately win.
Hi, I'm Swing Cash, Basketball Hall of Famer, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Roland also spoke with Deron Guidrey, the co-founder of Players TV, who explained how athletes are getting the chance to tell their story their way. Let's go back to AfroTech.
All right, Deron, the game has changed. It used to be sports writers who are mostly white control the narrative, control the content. They were the ones who sort of dictated how we saw, how we heard from athletes. Now you're seeing athletes who are now controlling their narrative, literally telling their own story and bypassing traditional media outlets. Talk about Players TV and how that sort of drives that.
Yeah, great question. So thank you for having me today, by the way. Players TV was really built for athletes that want to control their content, have distribution, and they have their own production companies. So we focus on how can we give them the distribution for those fans can engage in their content and remove the middleman out of the equation, have their own destination, their own place, where now advertisers can now transact there, but also they can retain their ownership of their IP as well, too.
Gotcha. And so how does that work? Do they have individual shows? Are they set up with their own digital networks? Walk me through that.
Yeah, so we have original shows with the athletes. We co-produce with them as well, too. And each athlete has their own ideas, but we also co-produce with them, but also allow them to be able to license their content other places, but also on their own platform where they can get syndicated to other places as well, too.
Now, are you guys linear or you only or digital?
Linear fast.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then. And so how have you seen the evolution is? Because what is interesting, and I was talking to a lot of people about this, the reality is the players are in a place that very few people can go unless you are a coach, unless you're team personnel. So when you look at the success of many of these athletic podcasts, it's because they're sharing details about events that we as fans are witnessing, but they're able to share the inside story. Normally you get that when it's documentary or something along those lines. This is a lot different.
Yeah, so like it's podcast shows, it's reality shows, it's cooking shows. We're bringing that humanization to that athlete beyond the game, beyond a uniform, but also being able to tell stories that they know about from their own perspective, from their own place, versus hearing from a third-party journalist who maybe don't have inside information, and they're kind of regurgitating third-party stuff from other third-party stuff.
Are you seeing these players who are more today, more business-minded, business-focused? Because you take what Kevin Durant is doing, investing in other things, what Stephen Curry is doing, what LeBron James is doing. You're dealing with a different athlete in 2025 than you were dealing with, let's say, the last 20, 30 years.
Timing, right? It's a timing situation. Athletes are getting paid more money now. You have social media now, so they have that direct-to-fan relationship now as well, too. And then also, these guys are making so much money now to the point where they want ownership, not endorsementship anymore, and no censorship either.
Well, and like you take what I was just watching something the other day. I look at Kyrie Irving. Someone was lauding him. Now, Jay Williams was talking about it. Now he has the ability to tell his story. He doesn't have to have a conduit. He can actually just go straight to the public to share his thoughts on any subject he wants to.
Speaking of Kyrie, he's one of our first investors in Players TV. So he joined the company along with Chris Paul, Damian Lillard, Travis Kelce. A lot of those guys joined the company because they wanted just that. Because at the end of the day, they didn't want to be subject or beholding to ESPN or Fox Sports and ridicule in that lens. And we want to build the athlete up, not tear him down.
So what's next?
What's next, man? We're looking to expand the network. We're looking to go into the UK and launch Players TV UK with soccer athletes as well. And right now we're on pace of doing $50 million in revenue now, and we're just really focused on scaling the business. And glad to be here at AfroTech around other creators and technology-driven people, and being able to just be around other people that are looking to build and come together and do great things.
All right, sounds good. Well, certainly good luck with it, and I hope folks check it out.
Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
Mike, let's start with you, brother. You have been in the online environment for quite some time. You launched the African History Network probably when damn near no one else was out there doing the work consistently like this. What do you make of this new platform, Players TV? I'm looking at it. You got Travis Kelce, as you see, Chene, Ogunwike, Dwayne Wade, Ken Griffey Jr., Damian Lillard. How is this different than the kind of work that you've been doing and that so many other people are doing?
Well, I think this is something that's good. I'm looking at a piece from CBS News right now about Players TV, first media network owned by professional athletes. And this is an article from April 17th, 2025. I started the African History Network back in 2010. I was doing podcasts back when most people did not know what a podcast was. And I was doing podcasts on Blog Talk Radio. So I think this is something good to give more ownership to athletes. I think athletes have really more power now if they use it than pretty much any time in previous history, because now you can have online platforms, you have social media, so the athletes can shape the narrative more so than the sportscasters or commentators. And we know that in a lot of these sports, African-American athletes dominate, so we need to control how we communicate the information also.
Dr. Kirk, thanks, Mike. Dr. Kirk, it's interesting seeing this formation, which, investors, they offer folk an opportunity to invest and platform here. A lot of these folks are also platformed on kind of legacy media. But I'm thinking about the club Shay Shays. We all remember Kwame Brown, who seems to have peaked and now gone back down the mountain. Do you distinguish between the athletes? I mean, Cam Newton, of course, who had a very popular kind of platform, and now he's been integrated into the Death Star at ESPN. Is this an attempt to kind of take to platform athletes in a way that kind of takes away that kind of, let me just get in front of a camera and upload my stuff to the internet and see how many people view? How do you sort this out?
You're going to give me the damn hard question that's super loaded, but you know what I'm ready for when I am.
I know you are, brother. That's what we had.
Yeah. Let's not pull the punches, my friend. Look, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm thankful that Roland got out there, and I'm so glad he's at AfroTech this week. Hate that my brother didn't bring me with him here in Atlanta. I would have taken the days off work. I would have loved to have gone to the AfroTech.
Next year.
Next year, right. Yeah. Next year, I was here working through. Yeah, Roland could have, Roland is a Scorpio. I'm a Scorpio. He could have gave that to me as a early birthday gift. Happy Halloween to everybody out there. I'm pretending to be a Falcons fan. So you dress up as a Falcons fan. The reality is, 100%. Let's call it what it is. It's constantly an attempt when these athletes realize their true power. It's constantly efforts to take that power away. When they realize the impact of their voice, when they get out here and they take a stance for the community, they speak up for the community, fight for the community, they don't ever want to see another Colin Kaepernick emerge. And no matter how they are moving and aiming to get that or use that influence. So I think that's definitely a part of it. And so I want to see more of our athletes take their power back, take their money back, and take their influence back. And I also want to see, as long as these universities continue to, some would say bend the knee, I say kiss the ass of the Trump administration. I want to see our athletes, the Black talent that fuels their income, no longer go and support these universities. Why are you sending your child, allowing your child to go to the University of Alabama when they have the egregious policies against diversity, equity, and inclusion at the University of Alabama?
That's right.
I want to see us, all of us, take our power back in this moment. That's the only hope we have.
Indeed, brother. That you done spoke a word right there, brother. Mateo, let me ask you. We see David Ellison and the Ellison family, more money than God, with Paramount Skydance trying to buy perhaps Warner Brothers Discovery, and then Warner Brothers Discovery maybe going to try to spin off and sell parts of itself to prevent it. Have these corporate titans maybe missed the boat, missed the moment? Is the cat out the bag and walking around? In other words, everybody's out there now with these uplinks doing their own thing. And we think about legacy media, we think about platforms, we think about broadcast networks. Even the people like Shaquille O'Neal or Charles Barkley have their own separate things where they're uploading stuff. How do we sort this media landscape out? And as some of these folks who think they can control some of these platforms, have they missed their moment? Is it too late? Or am I being naive maybe about that?
They certainly have missed this boat. I think that the largest media powerhouses are today, they're the Blockbuster of the 1990s. They stayed behind. But I also, the one thing that fascinates me, I almost stood up and applauded when I heard that interview, is the thing that has upset me about professional athletes is that athletes are taught from college that the machine that they're part of wants their muscle and their skill, but not their voice. And we see it in college by the contracts that colleges force athletes to sign. And then we see it with Colin Kaepernick and the like. This platform flips the power dynamic. And this is the most powerful thing about it. Athletes become storytellers, they become producers. They're not just mouthpieces. And this gives the entire system, beyond the ability for an athlete to monetize himself or herself, it gives athletes the power to speak. And that is, I think, more powerful than any amount of money, because it changes society.
I absolutely agree, man. Everything is changing. Hey, Brendan Carr at the FCC. Bye, 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 bye. Anyway, you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network, and we will be right back.
This week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie, we're continuing our series of putting in the work, A Chef's Journey. Are you an aspiring chef? Someone who already has a business, trying to figure out what your next steps will be, who to talk to, and how to get there? Well, on this week's show, our great guests and wonderful chefs will talk to you about what it means to discover your purpose, your why of being in the kitchen, and then knowing how to put a business together.
The menu controls everything. The menu determines everything. But the business plan is where you have to go back to.
When you get into the business, at the end of the day, social media and TV, all of that stuff is cool, but you still have to run a business. You still have to be in relationship with people.
That's all next on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie here on Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Paula J. Parker. Truly proud of the Proud Family, Louder and Prouder on Disney+. And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Haiti is racing against the clock to restore order and hold its first elections in nearly 10 years. The United Nations warns that time is running out for Haiti's Transitional Presidential Council, which must organize a national vote before its mandate ends in February 2026. So far, more than 1,300 voting centers have been identified for over 6 million registered voters, but no official election date has been announced as gang violence, armed militias continue to control much of the country. Armed groups control roughly 90% of the capital of Port-au-Prince, driving waves of kidnappings, killings, and displacement, leaving millions to live in extreme insecurity and poverty. Vanya Andre, editor-in-chief of the Haitian Times, joins us now to discuss the unfolding situation. Welcome back, Sister Vanya.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness, so much to sort out. Listen, because of Black Star Network and independent black media, and of course because of the Haitian Times, you've been on this story for quite some time, obviously. Since President Moïse was murdered in 2021 and Ariel Henry wasn't even allowed to come back in the country, we see the emergence of this, is it Vive Ensemble, the Living Together group, Jimmy Cherezier, and can you sort this out for us, sis? Because I understand, I know the Kenyans, are they there anymore? I think their mandate ended this month or next month. Walk us through where we are right now with our beloved Haiti.
I mean, all of this really predates, honestly, the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in 2021. If we want a clean place to start, that's a fair place. But we really would have to go back all the way to 2018 when the country really was up in arms because of the Petrocaribe money that was misused and misappropriated. These were funds that were meant to do social projects in the country. It was meant to help increase the quality of life for Haitian citizens, and it did the complete opposite. And so now you fast forward to 2021, the president is assassinated, and what essentially happens is that there is a power vacuum in the country, right? And then so now we have a situation where you have gangs, individual leaders like Chelizier, right, who are essentially positioning themselves as the answer to all of Haiti's ills, despite having a hand in where the country is now. And so what we see happening right now in the wake of the president's assassination 4 years ago is a power vacuum where there isn't any consensus on how to move forward. Right now, we have a TPC, a temporary presidential council made up of 9 members that was not elected. There was controversy in their formation. And then you also have a electoral council that has not done the work needed in order to prepare for elections that's supposed to happen next week, November, right? When this announcement was made earlier in the year that elections were happening in November, my team and I mean, we knew just off of the history of Haiti that this was not something that was actually going to take place. Instead of this year, them taking the time to actually take care of the logistics and all of the technicalities in order to implement elections in a fair time, the TPC Council essentially used their time instead to work on a referendum and a new constitution, which eventually was scrapped after pressure from the U.S. You mentioned the Kenyan mission. This was a mission that personally I feel was doomed to fail from the beginning. This is a mission that was underfunded, understaffed. You had Kenyan police officers that were ill-equipped to deal with the gangs who now at this point, they have ammunition, they have resources that even the Haitian police doesn't have. And so it was really a situation where they were set up for failure, personally, I believe. And now the UN Security Council is looking to backtrack and implement instead this gang suppression force, where there's been little detail on when they would be deployed, who would be a part of this mission, and how long they would actually stay in the country.
First of all, for level setting us with Petrocaribe in 2018, all the news that is coming through these legacy platforms tries to make Haiti look schizophrenic and all this. Y'all been messing with the Haitians since they slapped the French and the Spanish and the English around 1804. So let's be crystal clear about that. Thank you for level setting that. As the Gerald R. Ford makes its way to the Caribbean Sea to mess with Venezuela, and like I say, Moise is involved. You're taking money, and then Venezuela looks like it's trying to help Haiti, and nobody likes black self-determination less than these former colonial powers. Help us with this because, well, first of all, just some basic questions. Where are they getting the ammunition and the weapons for? Is it still coming from the Dominican Republic? And this U.S.-backed gang suppression force, these 5,500 alleged police officers, there are no details, right? So in your best estimation of what's going on, what are these external forces involved, and how are they manipulating, manifesting? Because the way I understand it, CARICOM is the one who helped set up the Transitional Presidential Council, but it seems like nobody has clean hands coming to the table. Could you talk to us about this a little bit, please?
Well, you make an excellent question in asking where do these weapons come from in the first place, right? I mean, we're talking about military-grade weapons that, again, the national police doesn't have access to, right? And so where the guns are coming from, they're coming from the U.S. I mean, the Miami Herald, Jacqueline Charles, an amazing colleague in the space, she did an amazing report a few years ago looking at essentially this iron pipeline, right, of these weapons that are being smuggled from Florida into these privately owned ports in Haiti. And so when we talk about external factors, on one side, you have the Haitian diaspora, essentially folks that are part of the wealthiest families in Haiti, Haitian oligarchs that have a feet in two countries, right? So they have their homes, their mansions, they're living, they're living their life up in Haiti, but then also have their feet in the US where they're able to leverage resources and contacts there. And so they are the ones that own the ports, right, that are helping facilitate the smuggling of all of these weapons that are in turn then getting their hands in the bad actors, right? Other external factors that we have to think about is who is it that the US, right, the core group, and when I say the core group, I'm talking about the US, Canada, France, Brazil, right? Who are they negotiating with? They're not negotiating and discussing Haiti affairs with the average Haitian, right, or folks that represent the populace. They, again, are in talks with a handful of folks that represent the wealthiest interests in the country, right? And so when you ask what are these external factors, the external factors, it's money and greed, and also cutting out the majority of the population that are being impacted by these policies that are being set. In terms of our regional neighbors, I spent a lot of time thinking about what is CARICOM's role in it. Mm-hmm. And I want to be fair, right? Because of all of the countries in CARICOM, I fully accept and acknowledge, right, that Haiti has a very complicated past. It has a complicated presence and present and future, and that there are a lot of different issues that have compounded over time to lead us there. However, what I have always hoped to see is that we look less to Western powers, we look less to the US to help solve our issues, and we focus more on internal Haitian-led solutions, and then also lean on our counterparts in the region, right? When Kenya was picked to lead this mission, I was baffled. The team and I, we had open discussions, trying to understand how is it that Kenya, they have their own problems in their country, right? Their own strife with their own president, that they are being tapped to lead this mission, when from my understanding, Jamaica had offered, right? Jamaica has had success in quelling gang violence. There are other countries regionally that have more similar gang issues as Haiti does than Kenya. And so when thinking about the external factors, it's really who are allowed to even come to the table and have an opinion and have a proposed solution. The other thing that we see that's happened in the last 4 years that we really haven't seen in years past is the sophistication of the gangs, right? These gang leaders are very well adept at public relations. They are out there, getting interviews with legacy outlets, with mainstream outlets, helping to push a narrative that they are the savior, essentially, right, to all of Haiti's ills. And then in terms of current times, they are the ones that are also asking now for a seat at the table, right? And so they are likening themselves, you mentioned Viva Sam, as a political group now, right? Despite being sanctioned by the US as terrorists. And so there are a lot of historical and current issues that are compounding that is really making the situation unattainable and really not sure what the path forward is.
Thank you, sis. I'm going to bring the panel in. Mateo, questions for Vanya Andre, Editor-in-Chief of the Haitian Times.
I do have a question. So right now, the situation in Haiti is clearly out of control, which makes holding elections difficult, if not impossible. So my question to you is, where is the balance between the need to hold elections before the UN Security Council mandate ends, and then providing legitimacy to the elections? Because if they're held in unattainable, as you call them, situation, they do undermine the ICCPR design of how elections should be held.
Yeah. So on one side, there are political actors in the country who do believe that we should not rush to an election, right? That we need to take our time and make sure that this is something that is thought out in terms of logistics, in terms of safety. And now we have the compounding impacts of Hurricane Melissa. You have thousands of people displaced, more than a dozen people that have been killed. And so thinking about all of these different factors, right? So there are folks like we need to take our time. On the other side, right, the fear is that we are going to see history repeat itself where we will not have another election for another 5-10 years because we have a temporary transition power that is perhaps, subconsciously or willfully not willing to give up power. And so the happy medium that should exist is that there is an order within Haitian law that would allow a judge from the Court of Cassations to be the one to essentially hold this temporary power and then use that time to help coordinate elections. Now, what we've seen with Haiti, what is supposed to happen in theory and what happens in practice are completely on opposite ends of the spectrum. And so what I suspect will happen is that elections will not be held. February 7th will come. We will still have the TPC in power and protests will happen. And we've seen this happen year after year.
My goodness. Let's go to Dr. Kirk. Dr. Kirk, questions for Vanyandre.
Absolutely. I just want to, before you even make a brief comment, is that I'm really happy to hear about the people of Haiti really having to be, sadly, forced to really be self-sufficient in this moment when they need so much. So, but the fact that they are resilient and that they are strong and they're pushing through is really reassuring. I noticed I've been following very closely the city of Springfield, Ohio, and how this city is being devastated by the Trump policies to remove Haitians who are there legally under asylum that are significantly benefiting this economy, this community, and how that community is hurting as a result of it. And so it just indicates and shows the strength of Haitians and their impact across the diaspora to benefit and build communities and economies. My question to you is this. We realize that the American government doesn't give a damn and won't lift a finger to help Black and brown people across this world, specifically in helping our brothers and sisters in Haiti. But what can we, the Black people in America, do to be of greater support to our brothers and sisters in Haiti?
I would say, looking at your Haitian brothers and sisters, your neighbors as one of you, right? I think in general, we as a human species, right, we are very tribal and it is human instinct, right, to other people. And instead of othering, I think we should be looking at what unites us and look at our common struggles and find a way to see the humanity in other people. The situation that you've just outlined for me, it's bittersweet for me to hear because on one side, it's beautiful to see that when Haitians are given the opportunity to live in a safe environment, when Haitians are given the opportunity for resources and jobs, they flourish, right? And so for me, that's beautiful. And we've seen that evidence of Haitian communities all throughout the country and for decades, right? Haitians are not a new immigrant population in the US. We've been here from revolutionary times, right? But at the same time, it brings me a lot of sadness that the conditions in Haiti are so deplorable that folks have to leave, right? I mean, earlier you mentioned, folks that have been displaced, 1.4 million people in the last two years, essentially, right? 2 to 3 years have been displaced, have been forced to leave Port-au-Prince. And imagine just to give a comparison, right? Imagine the United States, right? And 90%, or let's say, let me be a bit more conservative. Let's say 70% of the population of the United States lived in New York, right? And then the other 30% was dispersed throughout the Midwest and the South. That is the situation in Haiti, right? We have about 70 to 80% of the population that was all concentrated in Port-au-Prince that have been forced to flee. And so part of this narrative is like, oh, it's not Haiti, it's Port-au-Prince. But what's happening in Port-au-Prince has a direct impact on the migration that's being forced, right? This is creating a humanitarian crisis. And then what's happening is that Haitians are confronted with xenophobia and racism everywhere they go. And so again, to go back to your question, what can folks do? It's see the humanity in other people, right? Help somebody that you may not be familiar with their background. They speak another language, and versus seeing them as other, welcome them into your communities.
Thank you. Brother Michael, Imhotep, questions for Vanya Andre.
Yes, Vanya, with you just talked about Viva Sam Gang Alliance declaring themselves a political party. And Reuters reported October 22nd, 2025, that Viva Sam is calling for dialogue with the establishment. So I was wondering, what are some of their demands as a political party, Viva Sam, and do we know who's funding them?
The question of who's funding them, that's a complicated question within itself. Based on the sanctions that the U.S. has levied on certain actors, I mean, we have the likes of possibly Reginald Boulos, which is somebody who is a part of one of the most prominent families in Haiti, was recently detained by ICE for suspicion of helping to fund the gangs. You have former presidents such as Michel Martelly. You have other former folks in his cabinet, all of them who have been sanctioned because of suspicion of funding these gangs. In terms of their request, you know, I hesitate to even mention it because I think it's smoke and mirrors, right? So on the face value, they'll mention things, you know, better access to food and resources to the community, yet they are the ones that are blocking roads, right? I was just watching a report a few hours ago of a nonprofit in Cap Haitien, which is the north of Haiti. So this is about perhaps, you know, a 10-hour drive from the capital, where they have to essentially get on rowboats, okay, to get resources, to get food, to get rice to folks in the south of Haiti because the roads are impassable, right? And so the only thing that I feel comfortable giving air to is that they want a seat at the table and have said very explicitly that there will not be any progress in Haiti unless they are able to be a part of the discussion. But I don't understand how anyone could allow them to be a part of the discussion in good faith when they are one of the main reasons as to why Haiti is in the situation it is right now in current times.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I got one final question, and it's unfair to ask you this, but since you walked us through an incredibly complex situation in a short moment of time, you know, reading some of the statements from Chirezier, thinking about the pride of the Haitian people, I'm thinking about this even in the context of what's going on now in West Africa, in the Sahel region with Burkina Faso and Ibrahim Traoré. The idea that the colonial powers, the former colonial powers, you mentioned the core group, for example, shouldn't be intervening. There's this spirit of no intervention. There's the Haitian people, of course, there are no more proud Africans on the planet than the Haitians. How much of what is going on, certainly as it involves Chirezier's group, is being fueled by the idea that we can work our problems out, but then using that to mask other interests and elements that are on the ground that are exploiting the very people who you're rallying against France, against the United States, against intervention, and then, as you said, perhaps even against CARICOM and others. We know Trinidad, for example, breaking ranks with CARICOM and saying, you know, they backing Trump killing people in the Caribbean Sea. I mean, how much of this, I hate to ask it, but I'm going to ask it anyway, because, you know, how difficult is it to balance a very real, a very necessary, and quite frankly, when it comes to Haiti, a very essential for Black people, certainly in the diaspora, pride and not wanting anybody to come in? How hard is it to balance that against people who say they're tapping into that pride, but are in fact predators to the people?
Yeah, I appreciate this question so much because one of my biggest frustrations in covering the community and everything that's happening in Haiti is that Haitians tend to romanticize Haiti. They especially tend to romanticize the past and our role in our own dysfunction, right? There's always a lot of finger pointing and you know, there's that obvious saying, you point one finger, you have three looking back at you, right? And so I personally, I hate when there is this single narrative, right? That everything that is wrong with Haiti is simply because of Western intervention. That absolutely is a huge part of it. I also get very frustrated when folks bring up our history, right, with the revolution, and that we are being essentially still punished for the right to be free as Black people. Absolutely an aspect of this, right? I've done a lot of time trying to see what countries other than Haiti have a similar history to us, and there is none. No. At the same time, we have to also be accountable for what we allow. And a lot of this, and the folks that are not mentioned, right, often is that there's this middle group, right? And so I've spoken about the population, right, the masses. This represents 80% of the country. And then I've spoken about the 5 to 10%, right, of these oligarchs that essentially really run every single business opportunity. They run the ports, every single industry in the country. But then there's a small faction, right, of Black Haitian politicians who prioritize self over anything else. And I try to look at it from a compassionate place in the sense that, you know, again, Haiti has a very complicated history that no other country on this planet has. And I'm a big believer of mass consciousness, right? And so the Haitian mass consciousness has been tormented, it has been beaten, and that generational trauma is real, right? And so because of that generational trauma, it creates this hoarding mentality that I think has a lot to do with that small faction of these Haitian Black politicians, right, who are willing to sell out their own country for money because they're only thinking about self, right? They are allowing themselves to be used by that 10%. And I make that distinction, the Black politicians, because race is also a very important construct in Haiti that is played out in multiple ways, right? The ruling families are not of Haitian, I mean, this can be controversial. They're not of traditional Haitian descent, right? They're not of African descent. These are folks that their families are from the Middle East, they're from Israel. These are not like the traditional Haitian demographic that you would think about, right? Wow. And so I make that distinction about race because it is very important in this country, right? Race, class, and even everything down to language is politicized. And so I love that you asked this question because there's very few opportunities where I get the very few chances where I get the opportunity to highlight this middle group, right? That's small, but are allowing themselves to be used by the 10% and by the U.S. so that way they can enrich in their pockets and their families.
Sis, as a member of the Black petty bourgeoisie here in the United States, a HBCU college professor, that is a conversation that the American Negro is terrified to have. And the simple fact that you have introduced that, we are all in that little group, and we got to make a choice at some point. So listen, Vanya Andre, editor-in-chief of the Haitian Times, HaitianTimes.com. Y'all follow there. You can support the Haitian Times as well, support their work. You can contribute there. And I love that you all cover the whole range. We saw some of the children who lost their lives, among the others, in Melissa. So our prayers go to them. And we also see on the other side of the ledger that Melissa Sapini is representing Haiti as Miss Universe. Saw that in the newspaper. She has a foundation for education. So you all cover from soup to nuts. Listen, Vanya, thank you for joining us. And please come back soon, okay?
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. Roland Martin Unfiltered will be right back here on the Black Star Network.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
Hello, we're the Critter Fixers. I'm Dr. Bernard Hodges.
And I'm Dr. Terrence Ferguson.
And you're tuned in to
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Well, that does it for us. I want to thank our panel, Michael Imhotep, Dr. Zachary Chris, and Mateo, the Justice Guy. Thanks, you all. Thanks to Roland for letting me sit in the chair, because you know we're in good hands. Got Carol and Henry, the whole crew back there. If y'all going out for Halloween, please be careful, because these people out here buck wild crazy. I know y'all done seen these costumes they got on. And for everybody who celebrates Dia de los Muertos, happy Day of the Dead, go commune with your ancestors. And as we do every Friday, we will conclude with the show with the names of those who have donated to us over the years. And those names should be growing longer and longer. Remember, you have to support the Black Star Network. Like Roland ends every show, holla.